Greetings. Today we'll learn how to read a business management case, and we'll learn this with the help of an example. So the objective of this session is to understand the purpose of case studies, learn how to approach and analyze a case, to identify what to look for while reading a case, and building a framework for structured thinking and discussion. So let's deep dive into each one of these. First of all, we need to know what is the teaching case exactly. So according to Lynn Jr. 1999, a teaching case is a story describing or based on actual events and circumstances that is told with a definite teaching purpose in mind and the reward careful study and analysis. So what does it mean exactly is that there is always a concept behind whenever a case is taught. So we always have to be mindful of what is the teaching or learning outcome that we are looking for. Now, why this case method is so popular and important? There are several reasons. One of the reasons is it has some real world application. So you apply whatever theory you learned into practice, and this practice is in the form of a case. There's no single right answer, so you can deliberate on several alternatives. And you may say that based on certain situations, the answer would change. So if in the end question is asked, what is the right answer? There is no right answer of case as such. It builds decision making, critical thinking, and communication. And critical thinking and decision making are extremely important when it comes to managerial decision making. Cases place you in the seat of the protagonist or the decision maker. So you have to think from the point of view of the protagonist and solve the case. Now, there are different types of cases. Of course, there are research cases, etc. But we are basically getting into the teaching cases. So the teaching cases could be of four types. Could be decision based. Decision based, the focus mainly is on that you have a choice as a protagonist whether you would like to go for option one, option two, or for that matter, option N. So you have choices out of which you have to choose one. Second is problem solving. Now, problem solving cases are mainly specifically related to internal problems or challenges. So, for example, there is a conflict in the team. How do you resolve that conflict? That's a problem. Third one is evaluation. Now, these evaluation based cases are mainly to assess effectiveness of a past or current event or a strategy or initiative. So, to what extent that particular strategy or event or initiative is benefiting the organization or harming the organization. The last one is strategy formulation, as the name itself suggests. It has to do with long-term competitive plan for sustainable competitive advantage. So here, remember, if you do not bring into the competition area, it is just like decision based. So here, competitors have to be analyzed, market has to be analyzed properly. Otherwise, it will become a decision based case. Now, before you actually read, you have to prepare your mind for reading the case. And what are those 4 points that we need to be careful about? The first one is that you have to skim the case quickly to get an overview. So when I say skim means you have to have a cursory glance to the case in order to know what exactly is the structure of the case, what are the different headings. Second is identify the company, industry, and key people there. Okay, so who is the protagonist? What is the company? What is its background? What industry it is in? Are there any other key people? For example, there could be an antagonist. Read the opening and closing paragraphs very carefully because often in the closing paragraph you will get the dilemma, and also in the opening paragraph you may get a situation. Then in the end, ask yourself, what is this case really about? So there could be a question given, but there could be a particular hidden motive behind the case. So what that exactly is. Now, when you start reading the case, you have to ask what to look for in that case. So you look for basically what are the different facts and figures versus opinions of people. So there could be one person who is saying something, but without facts and figures, it would be an opinion. Key players and their perspectives, chronology of events. It could be reverse chronology or chronology. How did it really happen? How did it evolve over a period of time? Data tables, financial graphs, etc. Underlying problems, not just symptoms. Remember this, that what exactly is the problem, you have to go into the root of it. Just because there is, for example, um, you are not looking good, you are looking very dull. No, that's not a problem. The problem is maybe fever, maybe you have not taken rest. So here is the 5W plus H approach to simplify your life. First question you have to ask is, who are the key stakeholders? That means who should be informed for this decision, who will get affected because of your decision the most. So who are the key stakeholders? Can you avoid them or can't you avoid them? What decisions or problems do they face? Okay, so we have to be very careful and mindful about this, that stakeholders' interests are of paramount importance. So, what are the decisions or problems that they are facing? When did things occur? So, we have to be careful about the timeline, also the place, that is the context or scenario, kind of market you are in, industry, or geography, and the reason of happening this event, why this particular event is happening or this problem is happening. Of course, how it can be solved. Remember, what you should not miss is if there are any case exhibits, because they are rich in facts and facts you cannot afford to ignore. Contradiction in narratives, that's a good gold mine for you. If there are contradictions in narratives, same person might be saying something in one sentence and saying something else contradictory in the other sentence. That means it shows the credibility of that person. Emotional tone or organizational culture. So there could be a plain sentence, but then, for example, the person took a sigh of relief and said, uh, things have to be improved yet. But the person has taken sigh of relief, so that's emotion that is coming out. So you have to be also mindful of emotions. Biases of characters. So a character, for example, a leader might be biased if some kind of recruitment is happening. In case he says something, the team might be biased to take or recruit that kind of a person. So biases of characters also have to be taken into account. Now, it is the most important thing that you have to link theory with the practice. So how do you really do that? And that's mainly analysis of the case that we'll learn in a separate video of case analysis, because this video is primarily about how do you read the case, but you should have in the back of your mind some kind of theory or the framework that you can relate. There are some tips for success: that read multiple times the same case. You have to skip, you have to deep read, and you have to analyze. So you have to read between the lines before you start analyzing the case. Highlight and annotate wherever possible, because in case discussion happens 1 week or 2 weeks after the case has been read, you might forget things and you might not like to invest the same time again. Always try to highlight and annotate the case. Discuss with peers before class so that you get more insights, more perspectives. Always prepare a one slide summary before the class. So that will help you out in order to summarize the case. Remember, if you are able to summarize the case in one slide, that means you have really, really understood the case. Now, as I said, we'll have an example of the case. So here's the sample case. Nova Beverages is a hypothetical company. The question is a very classic question: expansion or consolidation, right? So scaling or sinking. So in 2023, Nova Beverages, a premium health drink startup based in Bengaluru, India, is at a crossroads. Founded in 2018 by two IM graduates, the company quickly rose to the popularity by marketing cold pressed juices and functional drinks made from Ayurvedic herbs. It built a strong D2C, that is direct to consumer brand, through Instagram, wellness influencers, and urban retail stores in cities like Mumbai, Bangalore, etc. However, rising ingredients costs, aggressive competition from FMCG giants like Dabur, etc., and consistent demand outside Tier 1 cities have begun to strain the company's cash flow. And this is the classic situation that you start with a lot of enthusiasm, a particular startup or a company, and over the period of time, you find that a lot of competitors have come. Now, what you should do? So the company recently received a 10 crore Series A investment from a health-focused venture capital firm that expects three times growth in 2 years. The investors are pushing for aggressive expansion into tier 2 cities and partnerships with large retail chains. Remember, so these are the stakeholders. We have to take care of them. While the founding team is concerned that doing so might dilute the premium brand image and overstretch their operational capacity. So here is a caution as well. Internally, there are tensions between the marketing and operations teams as the former wants rapid scale while the latter is struggling to maintain quality and logistics with limited resources. So if you are the CEO, you must decide should Nova aggressively expand now to capture market share before others do, or should it consolidate its position in current markets, improve margins, and scale more gradually? The decision must balance short-term investor expectations with long-term brand and operational sustainability. So we know that it is a decision-based, strategy-focused type case. So you have to formulate a strategy, but also you have to do a decision, okay, whether to expand or to consolidate. The question primarily is, should Nova scale aggressively as investors want or consolidate and build sustainability as internal team wants? So before you really read it, you have to find out who is the company. Here, Nova Beverages is a startup in functional drink. What industry it is in? Healthcare, FMCG, D2C. These are the characteristics of the industry given. So the question is skim first, last few lines, founders versus investors, scale versus brand integrity. CEO needs to make a strategic call. These are the quick points that you have to take into consideration. One quick tip could be circle every time you see terms like aggressive expansion, premium, logistic challenge. These are the keywords that can help you out in strengthening your, justifying your answer. Now, while reading, what to look for? So, as I said, here facts are mainly free. That it's can grow funding from a venture capitalist. Series A, tier one focus, opinions. There are investors want growth, founders want caution. Characters, CEO, investors, marketing versus operations. Data, so you have cost pressures, brand dilution risk, operational trained data is given. Now, if we want to know all these answers, 5W plus H, here is the answer. Who? Founders, investors, operation, marketing teams are involved. What? You have to decide whether go for growth or consolidation. When? It is mainly after post, that is post funding 2023. Where? Expanding from tier 1 to tier 2 cities. Why? Because there is pressure to scale and defend brand. And how? Because expansion via retail chains, logistics upgrades, hiring, etc. Now, what you have to do while reading is that you have to make sure that you understand the case facts. Okay, so you have to note down all the important case facts in the code and also your inferences from those case facts. For example, Nova's current capacity is limited, but how do you know that? It is based on operations team is struggling to maintain quality and logistics with limited resource. Remember, you have to take it as it is along with the page number if the case is long, right? It suggests that operational capacity is already stretched in tier 1 cities and scaling too fast would likely worsen performance or hurt quality. The second is brand identity versus premium health product. So, how do you know that? Because it's written the case that cold pressed juices and functional drinks made from Ayurvedic herbs sold in urban retail stores and promoted by wellness influencers. So, from these phrases, you know that brand identity as a premium health product is there. External pressure to expand rapidly. How do you know that? VC firm expects 3 times growth in 2 years and is pushing for aggressive expansion. Similarly, inconsistent demand outside tier 1 city. How do you know that? Inconsistent demand outside tier 1 city was the exact phrase given in the case. Cross-functional misalignment, because it was there in the case that tensions between marketing and operations are there, and one pushing for scale, the other limited by capacity. So this is all about how to read the case. Of course, for analysis, there is a separate video, as I said before. Thank you.